Alright, so today we're going to work on lettering, and you guys all have to do lettering for posters, for projects, and words are a really important part of modern art these days. So here are some tips for lettering. So one of the things you always start with is very lightly, start with a line or two lines that you're going to draw your letters in between. And if you want a straight line, you measure. So I'm measuring from the edge of the paper. Oops, maybe I'll use inches. Sorry, Mr. Riemann. 1.5 inches here, I'm going to make a mark, and 1.5 inches here. And when I join them, I have a straight line. So it's good to have straight lines. And I'm not even going to bother measuring because I know I can make straight lines, but you might have to measure. So the next thing you're going to do is pick your word, and I'm just going to write the word lettering. And I'm very lightly going to make my letters, space them out between the two lines. And I'm not doing a very good job of it, but here we go. And now I want to make them bigger. So I'm going to go around them and turn them into block letters, right? And right away, my letters have a bit of more punch. And then remember, in art, one of the great things about art is that, oops, and this is why you probably should do it lightly first, because you might want to adjust things. One of the neat principles of art is variety. So then I'm thinking, as I'm doing this, maybe if I have really straight, chunky letters, maybe I want to jazz up my word. So let's try, after I've done this word, let's try jazzing it up. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 more lines, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to write the same word, lettering, but I'm going to write the letters a little closer together. And I'm going to start with my first one, and it's going to go a little bit lower below the line, and then I'm overlapping, so things that are in front, and then things that are behind, and a little bit higher. And this is going to maybe start to look a little bit to some of you like graffiti. So this is what graffiti artists actually do. They just sort of play. So a lot of art is play. And I didn't overlap that one. And I can throw in an I, a dot on the I here. Maybe I'll make this N really fat and I'll overlap the G. So right away I've created something that might look a little bit more like graffiti. And then you're thinking, okay, so these are both straight, so maybe I want to make one slanted. So to help me make it slanted, I'm going to make some slanted lines. Right, I'm using my ruler just to help me get the slant. And I'm going to write my slanted letters here. And I might just write the word letter, just so we don't spend all day here. And I'm going to do the same thing, fill it out. And again, I'm going to have them evenly slanted. And of course, in all of these, what you do after you're done is you're going to erase all these little lines. So whenever you're doing your sketchy lines, you have to learn to really press lightly, because you want those inside lines to disappear, right? So I don't really like my T's here, but I'm just marching on because Mr. Riemann is filming. All right, and then we'll maybe do bubble letters. Oops. So I have my slanted letters. And maybe we'll do bubble letters. So again, I'm going to do my 2 lines. And everything here is straight, angled, so maybe we're going to round things off. So I'm going to do the word letter again. And you could do uppercase or lowercase. And sometimes it's really interesting to look in newspapers and see the shapes of letters, because sometimes you don't pay attention to them, so you think of shapes of letters. So again, this time I'm going to make it rounded. So they look a little bit like they've been blown up, like they're balloons. And I'm overlapping them. I really like my T, so I think I'm going to put it in front of it here. And I'm not sure. I think I'm going to move my E over. So of course, you know, you can always change things. That's why you sketch it out and you do it first. So maybe I'm going to put the R behind it. Make a nice big fat R. Right. And I'm going to erase my lines, and then because it's bubble letters, I want to have that shiny mark. Wherever it's curving, you know, I'm going to have a shine, kind of like you have on an apple. So it's curving over here, so I'm going to do that little shiny mark here where it's curving. And then you can shade it in too. All right, so we have 3 different types of lettering. You have the straight one, you have one that's overlapping, you have one that's slanted, and you have bubble letter. And then if you want to, Mr. Riemann, we can zoom in on this page here, where then you can think of variety. So you can have really chunky letters, or you can have really skinny letters. I drew between 2 straight lines. What happens if you curve the lines? If they're curving and they're spaced equally apart, or they're curving and the spaces get further apart and further or closer together in different places. 3D letters, I maybe have to do a whole new lesson on that one. We could do that later. Then you have, in art, you have positive and negative, right? So if I took my chunky letters and erased the lines and put a black shape around them and filled in, instead of filling in the letters, I fill in around the letters. If I wrote in cursive letters and filled in some of the shapes that I created, right? You can stamp letters, you can carve letters out of an eraser, but you have to be careful if you stamp letters out of an eraser. If you do letters that have a direction, like the letter C or the letter B, you have to draw them backwards on your stamp because it's a mirror image. And if you say, try it out for yourself and you'll see. You can have serif letters. If you look in newspaper, letters that have little tabs on the end of them, that's another addition you can have to make them interesting. Most of the letters I showed you are sans serif. They don't have the little tabs. And then you can write your letters in cursive and outline them and fill them. You can even think of making backwards letters, because I bet you can read that even though it's backwards. And that's quick and dirty lettering.